Well, I think we should have a second ago.
We sit anywhere, or we
Good.
Cats.
I mean, I think it says rec. You should be working, right?
How they say, lady? Any port in the storm.
Any port?
Port in the storm. America?
Yeah, any port.
Connecticut?
But,
Oh, you're both.
so I don't want to hold
I
us
never
up
heard of it before.
too long, but I just want to make a brief policy statement. But at some point or another, basically I'll develop on it more. Because I once had a whole in when I started working in Kwakabaram, going back about close to 46, 47 years ago. I once had a whole thing with a bocha about Iskafia, which is brought down quite a lot instead of the word Iskafia. And he eventually wrote to the Rabbi. He was told by somebody else another explanation than what I gave him. And he sent a letter to the Rabbi asking the Rabbi what way is the right, how's he supposed to understand this whole Iskafia thing, Inyan. So the Rabbi answered him that he should go according to the second opinion. And the second opinion was mine. The one he wrote second was mine. Yeah. Wow. So I have, I have a support for what I'm about to say. But I'm going to say it very briefly now, and then at some point I'll tell in more detail what his problem was and what was happening and so on. But just very briefly, once, maybe in certain periods and by certain individuals, the Inyan of Iskafia meant not eating or denying oneself, or eating or eating less, or all sorts of inyanim of that nature, or other things, lavdavki eating, other inyanim. Mashen came for the Rov people, the Inyan of Iskafia means that we are entirely under Hashem's Hashgacha. Everything is from Hashem. Therefore, there's a tzivui in the Mishnah which says that everything should be l'shem shamayim. And then there's a pasuk in Mishlei which says that b'chol drochecha do'eru. Everything you do, you should know Hashem, which is even higher, actually.
Right.
That's higher than l'shem shamayim. Which means that somebody who holds by either of these levels, he has to know that everything is a divine plan. But everything that we do is because Hashem requires it that way. I think the reason we eat is also because that's part of Hashem's plan. And whether it be the inyan from Birulim or a higher inyan than that or whatever, we have to eat because that's part of, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't have to spend so much time eating. I mean, a lot of time goes away on eating. So there must be some, just like sleeping. There's a whole sikha in the Rebbe about sleeping also, very famous sikha. But about eating is we have to eat with the knowledge that it's Hashem's plan and it's Hashem's rotzen and it's Hashem's inyan that we should eat. So therefore, that if you approach it in that way, that gives you a sense of balance and choice. Something which is quite unnecessary, and it's just purely a thing you're not going to eat anyway because you're not into that. You're following, a more divine sense of what you're doing. And things which are just unnecessary, you're not going to eat anyway. But things which are important that you should eat, and they're important to your health, and they're important that you should have a certain, quantity of mazon, at each meal, or whatever it is, or if you eat between meals or something, and you're doing it as part of Hashem's plan, with a sense that this is also Hashem's will and this is what He wants, then automatically you just don't pack in. Whatever you need to eat, you eat. But there's an inyan that should also be besimcha. And there's a passage which says, Lecha chayla slach melcha besimcha. So Emes, the Gemara learns that is referring to after Yom Kippur. After Yom Kippur, it's written, Lecha chayla slach melcha besimcha. One of the reasons being that Motzi Yom Kippur is a yonta, a kiyador. It's a very special time, Motzi Yom Kippur. So you have to eat besimcha. But the great Mashpiyim taught me that you have to eat besimcha kol hazman. So it depends, what is the simcha? Is the simcha, you say, oh wow, I can eat now, so I can pack in, Or is the simcha that this is part of Hashem's avodah? I've got to look after myself, it's also part of Hashem's avodah. This is part of the simcha in avodas Hashem. You can even eat besimcha, and you can eat because that is rotzen and kavonas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, without just packing in, without just putting. And you won't do that anyway because you're feeling the divine plan and the divine hashgacha b'kol dor. So you're just not going to fill in and pack in anyway. And if ever you have in front of you two things, for example, let's say you have a beautiful cream cake and just some ordinary mazenas, then you need a bit of mazenas before done. And so you have to have that bit of mazenas, and it's proper that you should. And you have to eat besimcha. But you don't have to have who knows what, I can't serve, wedding cake or something. It's enough that you have some mazenas. But you have to eat the mazenas. You have to eat the mazenas,
Right.
and you have to eat the besimcha, and you have to make a bracha, l'fanei v'lachleya, and you have to be aware of B'shas Ma'aseh that this is Hashem's will, and this is Hashem's part of His plan. So just like I put on tefillin, I eat. It's all part of the same basic plan. You follow? And that's what I told this book way back, 45 years ago. And he wrote to the Rebbe. The Rebbe said I was right.
Wow.
So, Mitchell will talk more about it, but that's an akudah. So everybody should eat gesundheit and eat plenty and make sure you eat enough for your health and besimcha, but you do it with a divine sensitivity. You do it with an awareness of Hashem. And you know that it's a mitzvah like any other mitzvah. So therefore you're not mazalzo, You don't make it cheap. So whatever's good, you eat. And if you have a choice, then you choose the more healthy, the better, the more simple one, because you know that's going to make you healthy, it's going to give you the necessary care. And the wedding cake is, you have to leave that for the wedding. All right. Okay, so everybody got my basic policy statement, but again, okay, but we have to develop on it a lot more. And I'll tell at some point or another, I'll tell you more detail, whatever. Okay, so now we're opening up in this week's Parsha. Parsha Chayei-Sarah. We're opening up on Pasuk in chapter Kov Gimel. Kov Dalet, I'm sorry. The beginning of chapter Kov Dalet, Pasuk Aleph.
It begins with Chaf Gimel, is the beginning of Chayei-Sarah.
Huh?
Chayei-Sarah begins with Chaf Gimel.
Here.
Chayei-Sarah begins with
Yeah.
Chaf Dalet.
So it's Kov Dalet.
Chaf Dalet, so I thought you said Chaf Beis. I somehow heard Beis.
Kov Dalet.
I heard Beis.
And there's a lot to be said about this Seder, but because we're short of time, then let's go straight to the Inyan. And it's written after Avraham Avinu purchased the Maras HaMakpelah, but by the way, it's written in a Medrash that it brings it down, that the Maras HaMakpelah is one of the three main things that the Goyim have known, and the Goyim have themselves said over the history that they have no place in that whatsoever. Why? Because Avraham Avinu paid heavy money, and he put it heavy money. In other words, that even though the whole Eretz Yisrael was promised to Avraham Avinu, why did he have to? He could have just said to Ephraim, "Listen, man, you know, you guys are just a bunch of Hittites. You know? I'm the real Belabos around here, and I've been made by Hashem the Belabos, and you yourself hold me as a holy person. Just give me a Mars and Machpelah." No, he paid heavy money for it, Avraham Avinu, and that made it an extra Indian Laderas that everybody, even the worst Goyim, are asking that the Mars and Machpelah belongs to him. Plus, a couple of other places where it's not the place to go into the whole thing right now. So after having purchased the Mars and Machpelah, it's written, the Avraham Zokein Bo Bayomim. Avraham was old and he was coming into days. He was Bo Bayomim. Hashem Beirach es Avraham Bakoyo. And Hashem blessed Avraham with everything. Basically, that's apparently what it means. So the question occurs to the reader that if I say that somebody's a Zokein, then that means he's come into days. Yeah, the word Bo B'yomim means the same as what Zokein means. That if you're old, then you come into the days. So ask yourself, what are these two expressions, Avram Zokein and Bo B'yomim?
Is it possible that Zakein can mean sage? It can mean like wise person, Zakein?
I'm sorry, can't hear.
Can Zakein also mean like wise person? Like a
wise person.
Is Zakein?
Oh, that's another further development on the simple pshat.
Yeah.
Or the simple pshat means that he was old. You understand? Yeah. Now we find in Parsha Vayero, when the Malachim came to promise Avraham Avinu that he was going to have a son, it's written over there, Avram Basora, that's written both of them, Zakeinim Boim B'yomim, exactly the same expression. That they're old and they're also coming into days, and Rashi doesn't comment over there. He doesn't say anything, and the same thing here, Rashi doesn't go into what is the difference between the two. Well, from that it would appear that it's a fair thing in Lashon Kodesh and an accepted Indian that if I say somebody's old and I add by saying that he's also come into days, that's an acceptable thing. It's not Danish any biur special. Therefore, Rashi doesn't comment on it over there, and neither does he here. But nonetheless, since Lashon Kodesh is tremendously bedir, and everything in the Torah is tremendously bedir, by way of simple conversation or by way of simple usage of Lashon Kodesh, it could be you can use these two expressions together, but obviously they must have some inyan in them which adds one to the other, or some way or another differs itself one from the other. So that's what I'm going to devote myself in this class. There's a lot more to be said about this, and this is one of the most darshan of Pesukim in the whole of Bereshit. That all the big proportions, all the great Polish Sforim, everything, for some reason, which I'm not going into right now, they get onto this verse, Avram Zokein Bo B'yomim. This one. So what I'm going to give over is just a few basic nakudas which are very important for us, I think, and they're based on chassidus, and particularly they're based on certain things that the Rebbe says in a very important, every sikha in the Rebbe is important, a very well known, a famous sikha from the Rebbe. So let's get moving, and that's like this. Immediately following this, we see that Avram calls Eliezer, his servant, and he says, "Listen, I want to find a a wife for my son Yitzchok, and I want you to go and so on, and bring a wife for Yitzchok. And the Rebbe talks about that a lot in what's called the Dvar Malchus, not the colored Dvar Malchus, but the Mushkes Dvar Malchus, what we call the real Dvar Malchus. In the Rebbe talks a lot about it. There's a very big deal, but that's not for us to go into. However, all the great Meforshim say that the fact that immediately following this posse, there occurs the whole inyan of the shidduch between Yitzchak and how Eliezer went in Avram Avinu Shlichut to bring the whole thing. As in case there must be some basic connection. Therefore, if we look in Rashi on that basis says something which is unusual for him, but he's obviously bothered by this basic connection union that we just pointed out. Now Rashi says he doesn't comment on Avram Zokin Babi Yom at the beginning of the pasuk, and then he just says on the end of the pasuk, the Beirach is Avraham Bakur. He's only talking about that particular union. So Rashi says, Bakur oil begematria ben. Yeah, Ben is 52. There's a well-known in Kabbalah, got a very famous name of a Kodesh Baruch called the Shem Ban. Allah is begematria 52. So Ben is begematria 52. So is Bakur. So therefore says Rashi, unusual for Rashi to make a gematria. Very unusual. He says, "V'hoya u'meyacha shehoya lo yibein hoya tzorik lahasiyo isha." So he said, and since he had a son, he had to worry about getting him a wife. So I saw the question, why would Rashi, go out of his way like that to learn a gematria and then to say just how important it was? So therefore, with that, Rashi is also including why it's written Avraham Zokin Bo B'Yomim. And why does that appear here, and what's got to do with the whole thing? So Rashi says, Avraham Avinu was already not a young sprig. How do you say? He was already no longer. He was not only Zokin, but he was also Bo B'Yomim, and he's got a son. Now, he has a son already 37 years, or 38 years. Yitzchak was already about 37 years old. So I thought the Shaila, 37, even if we go according to the age groups in those days, 37's a little bit, getting on. He should have worried about a shidduch for Yitzchak quite a lot earlier. Yeah. And he always had Yitzchak around.
Right.
So what's all of a sudden now does he become concerned? And therefore Rashi says, why? Because he is Zokim Bo B'Yomim. And that's what the holiday is, that Zokim Bo B'Yomim means that he's old. Yeah? And he's quite old, because he's got both miles. He's got Zokim and Bo B'Yomim. In Cain, how's the old saying, time does its own things. Time's getting on. And all of a sudden he realizes, time is pressing. It's really very high time that he do something about finding a wife, for his son. and that's why no son is mentioned in the pasuk. Rashi feels that because of the hemshech and because of the stress on the fact that he's so old, that's like a new Indian that's connected one with the other. What's all of a sudden? So Rashi goes a little bit out of his way to say that the word Bakuyo means a son. And that Avraham Avinu, due to his heavy age, he was concerned that what's he going to do about a suitable wife for his son? What's he going to do about a suitable shidduch? Libnai. And Maya Yomi Yomayim, why all of a sudden today? Because he's old, time's running by. Now this, if we take that basic theme, that's how most of the great Rishonim, B'derech HaPshat, that's the way they learn it. ככה הם לומדים. They learn it in different ways and they say it in different fashions. But the point is, Avram was worried that since he was already getting very old, that it's very timely now that he must do something about Yitzchak. And therefore Rashi goes out of his way to make a gematria. And that's unusual because there's a Gemara in Bava Basra where the Gemara says that the word Bakoyel indicates that Avram Avinu had a daughter. And how does that fit in? And that when Yitzchak was born, according to some opinions, there was born like a twin with her, and she was also a miraculous young lady. And so the Gemara said he had a daughter, and her name was Bakoyel. He called her Bakoyel. Well, Hashem Yevorech es Avraham Bakoyel. The Gemara said means that was his daughter's name, and she was a daughter. You see, in Rashi says exactly the opposite. Rashi says, no, we're talking about a son, not about a daughter. And he, in order to get to that, he goes into a gematria. That's unusual, right? Why? Because Rashi feels that the only connection with this whole Avram Zohim, Bo B'yomim, in the middle between the Maras and Makpelah, between sending Eliezer, means that Avram was worried about his son. You follow?
Right.
And therefore the Ramban and all the other great Rishonim say that Avram was simply concerned that any time he might no longer be around, because he was Zocher and he was Bo B'yomim. And the Ramban is one of the only ones who says, what's the difference between Zocher and Bo B'yomim? And he says like this, the Ramban, he says that Zocher means you've already started getting old. He's like, Bo B'yomim is an expression which indicates the beginning of getting old. Once you start realizing that you're getting old, then you say it's Bo B'yomim. And he said, what this pasuk meant to say is that Avram Avinu, he was already way after Bo B'yomim, because the expression Bo B'yomim is usable at the beginning of when you begin to realize that you're old. But he was already way past that. And therefore, he was not only Zokin, but he was well after Bo B'yomim, which indicates the beginning of Zokin. And he was already a very elderly man, because we know that Avram Avinu was 175 when he passed away. So that's pretty old. So here he must have been less than that, but I notice you guys are all very easy people to get on with. There's a very big kasha about this, but maybe we won't go into it. Nobody's bothered by the kasha.
We don't know what the kasha is, I think that's
At the end of the Seder, after everything, after Sarah passed away and after everybody, it's all mentioned, everything, it's written that Avram Avinu added, and he took a new wife called Keturah, and he had 6 sons from her. That's a heck of a lot of people. And if he was already so old, and that Yitzchak was a big nest, when he had Yitzchak, what's he doing marrying a lady at this age? And he has 6 sons. Just to push it. And Yitzchak was a tremendous net.
I don't know.
Yeah, that is
I don't
serious.
know if I ever heard that.
I mean, that's just absolutely amazing.
Isn't it
the whole
funny?
thing.
Yes, this is the back, yeah.
In the very end of
So I could go into a beer about that, but I got no time to go into that now because that's not really what we're talking about today. But just very suffice it to say that once you start being Lamayla Me'ateva, then Lamayla Me'ateva becomes ordinary. It becomes, like he says, all about this. You're already Lamayla Me'ateva. He said, well, Avram Avinu went up and he had a son when he was 100. Now he's a lot more. No problem. Already Lamayla Me'ateva, anything can be. But it needs an explanation. And at another point I could give you an explanation about it, but I want to get ahead with the cloud. So, in order to understand all this, and some of the other Rishonim, as I said, they say Avraham Avinu was very concerned, and therefore he looked for a wife for Yitzchak. And that's, Rashi is like the leader of all these people. That's basically the pshat in Rashi. So, in order to understand what I want to bring out, I'm going to tell you a story. And we are accustomed in this class to tell a story, to connect the class with a certain inyan. And since we're all livers in Tzfas, or at least temporarily, we're all living in Tzfas, what could be better than telling a story about one of the great citizens of Tzfas in the past generations, none less than the Beis Yosef himself, the Rabbi Yosef Karo, the author of the Shulchan Aruch. And before the Shulchan Aruch, he wrote the whole Beis Yosef Alatur, which is incomparably longer than the Shulchan Aruch. It's a very long beer. Plus, he wrote others for him, the Beis Yosef. So the Beis Yosef was an unbelievable person. And in his latter years, he used to learn with an angel. You know that? You guys are familiar with the story?
Yeah.
So a special angel that he became quite familiar with. He used to talk and converse with this angel. He used to come specially to the Beis Yosef and reveal him all sorts of amazing inyanim. And he used to reveal him what they're learning and what is the conclusion in the yeshiva Shalamayla. And he would tell the Beis Yosef all sorts of things. So once he came to the Beis Yosef, the Malach, and he said to the Beis Yosef, you should know that upstairs they've decided about you that B'Korev, you're going to be burnt on Kiddush Hashem. You're going to Nisroch on Kiddush Hashem. So the Beis Yosef heard that, he said, wow, this is absolutely, because all the great tzaddikim, they see that as being a very, very high madrega. It just shows you how we're very well advantaged. We would probably be pretty shocked if we were told such a thing.
Yeah.
But the Beis Yosef, he heard that from the Magid, and he said, oh, wow, this must have made, this is for me, my dream, I'm going to be zeichet to the Nisroch Kiddush Shmoi mitzvahs. Yeah, Kiddush Shmoi is Baruch. He was very thrilled. And so he began preparing himself, the Beis Yosef. All of a sudden, the Maggid comes to him again a couple of weeks after, and he said, listen, I'm sorry, but they've decided in the business that you're not going to get that. And he said, the reason why is because you ate a certain thing which I told you not to eat. And you forgot, and you ate it. See, I mean, we're talking about Kiddush. I said it's a tremendously high madrega. And it was, you know what it was? It was radish. The Malach told the Beis Yosef that he must not eat radish.
Was?
Radish, it's like turnip or something.
Yeah, but for us, what's the reason?
It's a type of vegetable.
Yeah, but why?
Oh man.
It's called snon.
Yeah, but why could he not eat it?
So close.
Why didn't he want him to eat it? Because he said that's not for a great Talmud Chacham to eat snon. Yeah. Anyway, the Beis Yosef forgot, and he ate a bit of snon. So came the Malach, and the Malach said to him that since you ate the snon, we paskin l'mayla that you're not going to be burnt on Kiddush Hashem. So the Beis Yosef said, but I just ate a bit of tznon, I forgot, So, sorry, that's it. Not on anymore, no Kiddush Hashem. The Beis Yosef had to be makabel, and he had to go ahead, but he was very mournful that he lost such an opportunity. So ask yourself the question, what's happening around here? to be oile on Kiddush Hashem like he was promised, that's a very big Indian. I mean, it's a very profound Indian that only very, very great and amazingly great people like the Beis Yosef can imagine just how great that really is. And to eat a bit of tznon, I mean, that seems to be just absolutely of no significance. Yeah. And so nonetheless,
Radish.
radish, or
Yeah.
turnip or something like that.